Wyo. So Brad's probably gonna be real quiet here on this one. You just jump in whenever you want. Just pull it. Just make sure you're closer to it a little there. You're like, who's the quiet one on the Dan Patrick show? He's the
probably Perloff, but
yeah.
He's gone.
So yeah. Just be close to it. It's okay. You can just. I was listening to a podcast and they made a joke. Oh, it's the freaking Sunny in Philadelphia podcast. Have you listened to that? Those guys are hilarious. Oh, yeah. They just give each other shit all the time. They were making fun of one of them because like they were like one guy's like deep into the mic. So of course we can obviously think about what they're talking about. But anyways, that's so. Just get in there. Don't be afraid.
To the mic.
Yeah, don't be afraid of it.
Talking to the mic.
Danny DeVito on.
So anyways, that's a pod. Any of you podcast listeners, you got to be over 18. Well, no, actually, just don't watch the show. You can listen to the podcast. Just don't watch Sunny in Philadelphia.
The fact that it's still on, it's like the longest running live action comedy on TV.
It's so funny.
It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. I like it. Anyway, so, well, guys, this is the first roundtable I've ever done for Go BYO. I've got Tyler Wells with me and Brad Estes, DYT Solutions. These guys have been helping me out with audio, marketing, the video side. Carter's not in here, but he's popping in, helping with the shots. So we got a lot to talk about on the Go BYO stuff. First and foremost, we did our Sports Business Nation. Shout out Logan Wilson showing out at the Super Bowl. Yeah, we kind of go listen to that if you want to know his stats and things like that. But we talked about the Cowboys men's basketball. Had a loss in New Mexico, but I think we kind of talked about had a lot of great wins, a lot of scrappy wins lately. Played a lot of games, and hopefully they could potentially have a 7 seed, which would be nuts for the tournament. Potentially playing like Kentucky or somebody, but. What I want to talk about today, since I got Tyler here, is Wyoming and Blockchain. There's a really cool video from Bloomberg kind of highlighting Wyoming taking the lead of blockchain in regards to legislation. And today is the 17th. Tomorrow, the 18th, we're going to have our interview out with Cyrus Western, who's a friend of all of ours in here, but he's a state representative. He was on that blockchain task force a couple years ago that got all this stuff rolling. First, before we dive too far into it, Tyler, what is blockchain? I think everyone knows the word Bitcoin, but I think we got to start way back first with blockchain and define what blockchain is.
Absolutely. It's the very foundation of what cryptocurrencies are. What it does, and essentially we have, let's describe it this way. Blockchain is an infrastructure which all the cryptocurrencies are built upon, but it's safe, it's secure, it's decentralized. From a decentralized perspective, that means, so we're all familiar with centralized financial institutions. U.S. dollars is propped up by the Federal Reserve. Chase Bank, your credit card statements, it's all centralized on a server in New York. Centralized is not the most secure. What blockchain does is it makes it decentralized, so spreads the information over multiple computers and locations and everything like that to ensure that if a large portion of that network gets hacked or anything like that, it's secure. The information's still uncompromised and secure. So blockchain is very important for cryptocurrencies. It's important for transparency and how governments are spending their money. You have these decentralized autonomous organizations that utilize blockchain to basically have all of their financials transparent. So if you know that you you gave $1,000 to Habitat for Humanity, for example, you could see that they spent that $1,000 at Home Depot buying 2x4s for the house. So and it's all, and the blockchain is forever. It's not going, can't get hacked or deleted or anything like that. The register is there transparently for eternity, that you can always reference a transaction.
Yeah.
You might not necessarily know who the transactions are between.
Sure.
Because that's the anonymous part of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, that very authoritative countries, their citizens tend to use it because of the anonymity.
Yep.
But blockchain is, in summary, is the infrastructure in which the cryptocurrencies are built on. That gives it the competitive advantage of security, anonymous, and just instant transactions. Yeah.
No, that was a great little definition there, because you hit on a big one too, that I think that we're going to dive into this a little bit, and why I think it's important Wyoming needs to keep pushing this cryptocurrency and blockchain, is the creation of blockchain was for that reason, to get away from authoritative, either it's government or regulatory agencies or banks, maybe, just a very libertarian, like, if I wanted to give, like you mentioned, Habitat for Humanity, or like the Scott Foundation, I want to give them $1,000. One, I can see that where they're using that money, but also like, it takes away from that centralized banking system of like, no, it's my $1,000. I'm giving them $1,000. So, in regards to Wyoming, that Bloomberg video did really good. And, and Cyrus actually did mention this in the interview, and I, maybe I'm just like finally putting it all together. Cyrus is a smart guy, and I'm just like, yeah. I just nod my head and be like, yeah, that sounded really good.
That's a good approach with Cyrus.
But back in 2017, the first thing Wyoming did, that I kind of forgot about, because that's 5 years ago, so Wyoming was at the forefront of this. The blockchain task force clarified blockchain, or a digital asset as property in the state, which is huge. Because I now have some Bitcoin, percentages of Bitcoin through Kraken, which is one of the banks here in Wyoming. That's my property, so that's nice. So that if something ever happened to me or whatever, that's can go to my family or whatever. So that's step one. That was that. Tyler talked about decentralized autonomous organizations. Wyoming has legislation that pretty much lets those become LLCs here in the state. So if you, also known as banks, the banks Kraken, Avanti, and there's two other ones, but those were kind of the two big ones that came here to Wyoming when we passed that legislation. And then those can also be considered speedy banks, is what they're called, special purpose depository institution. I wish I had known this a little bit more, but they claim this helps with immediate settlement. So I don't know what must be immediate exchange. So if I put $100 in, I get whatever that is in Bitcoin, or vice versa. So, those were the top three things Wyoming's already done, that some states are looking to pursue. So, which is pretty cool. You guys have any thoughts on that too, or anything to add?
With the adoption of cryptocurrencies by professional athletes, you see ETFs. When you see the big money of Goldman going into ETFs and pleading to the SEC, you know that there's probably an investment strategy that's gonna be for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. When you see the crypto.coms of the world buy, the naming rights for the Staples Center for $800 million, it's not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be booms and busts, and there's going to be ups and downs, especially with things that kind of compromise the integrity. NFTs, for example.
Yep.
The technology is incredible, and the technology is very useful. I don't know if it's useful for, just storing a JPEG or a picture of, what. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
There is value in there. They are pushing the limits of technology. NFTs aren't it, but they're giving crypto kind of a bad name.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So Wyoming being on the forefront, hey, we're losing money because, of the coal situation. We know those conversations, but crypto offers us a way to lure those type of forward-thinking businesses here. And who wouldn't, Miami or Wyoming, you could start a crypto company in either one because of tax and their favorable laws.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think hopefully this session that we see in Wyoming, it's a budget session, so I don't know how much work they're going to get done, but I would like to see, because I set up an account on Kraken. The problem I had is I had to go, and it's probably more on my bank, but I'd like to see Wyoming banks, traditional banks, and maybe this is an FDIC problem, but I had to send a Fed wire, but it took 2 days. So I'm thinking, well, this isn't immediate. Whereas I'm going to imagine if I withdraw my Bitcoin amount, that's probably immediate. So I think Wyoming, we need to be thinking about, well, how can someone get into crypto faster? I would hate to miss a 2-day window of me trying to put funds in to buy Bitcoin, right? So that was my thought when I was setting up my Kraken account. I was kind of like, oh man, like what if I miss, what if Bitcoin all of a sudden in 2 days freaking, jumps and I miss the ship? So that might be more of a federal talk, because again, those banks are all centralized, so maybe that's their problem. But
that's where the underlying problems of cryptocurrency come to light. How do banks transact it?
Yep.
What are the restrictions? If something's you see that in the cannabis, some states you can process debit cards, other states it's cash only.
Yep.
It's due to the banking laws, due to the state laws and individualistic laws. And New York, it's funny on like the terms and conditions of Bitcoin. It says it has everywhere where you can use it, but it has like the 7 countries you're not supposed to have like Bitcoin or anything. And it's like North Korea, Iran,
well, Russia probably is now on that list.
Yeah, it's like these Venezuela, and then New York City. Like, what? It was wild, but it just goes to show that some states like us, we can be more proactive and flexible towards new legislation because it would benefit us.
Yep.
But for New York, it's threatening banking.
Yeah.
And look no further than Latin America to prove that theory, So New York is not going to adopt it as quick as Wyoming, but we have a lot more to lose than they do.
Yes.
They have a lot more to lose than
we do. Yeah. Well, to finish out this blockchain thing so we can get to the next topics, we will cover NFTs later. I think that's a big pile of worms that we can get into later. But one thing that a long-time guest ago, this is probably a year ago, was Dave Kane. He's now the president of the Stock Growers Association. He mentioned a year ago blockchain could be important to beef producers as well. And there are some federal programs actually that track kind of like USDA prime beef certifications through blockchain. So that way, if I bought half a beef, I could ask the producer or whoever, like, hey, I want to see the transparency of, the medications you gave, where it came from, vaccinations, whatever, and the blockchain will show, oh, well, this came from Dave Kane right there, outside of Sheridan. So there's a lot of different things Wyoming should be looking into for blockchain, outside of just cryptocurrency. So
that's a great use case.
Yeah.
Nonprofits and those type of situations, like Dave Kane's application, those are literal. That's what blockchain is going to materialize into. And that business is big business. Think shipping. Think precious metals.
Yeah.
Think diamonds. Think people. I mean, it's there forever. It's unhackable. Blockchain is here.
Well, and people, with Representative Western, he had mentioned about, online your identity online security, and trying to see how can blockchain help with that, where your personal information is not getting hacked using blockchain. So a lot of different applications and a lot of, a lot more conversations to come in regards to blockchain. And Wyoming. Yeah. I'll give a plug here for Cryptonomics. If you guys want a newsletter about it, go to cryptonomicsnow.com. We'll have it in the link in description here. But Tyler has kind of a blog where he sends out newsletters and keeps you informed on all the up-to-date stuff from cryptocurrency. So
thanks.
This one, guys, I really want your thoughts on this because this is super interesting. So Representative Zwonitzer out of Cheyenne, Yesterday, the House voted on either to investigate his, I'm just going to call it gerrymandering because that's what it is. So some background for people that if they don't know, he's a representative out of Cheyenne. And if you don't know the laws in Wyoming, to be representative for a district or a senator, you have to live in those confines of the borders, right? That's probably pretty similar everywhere you go. Representative Zwonitzer moved out of his district. There is proof that he moved from the county clerks. He did not inform the state, which he's supposed to do, so that's illegal. So he didn't follow that step. He still got elected for that district, which is illegal because he doesn't live there. And he's on the committee of redistricting across the state. So he's on the committee that when someone proposes, hey, let's redistrict a district, he's on that committee. And guess what? He's looking at his district to add, lo and behold, where he lives, which is gerrymandering, illegal. So that's 3 strikes. For whatever reason, the Attorney General has not stepped in. I have not seen any formal comment from the governor. The Speaker of the House pretty much just called a vote to investigate. He didn't pretty much say, let's investigate. He just said, let's take it to a vote in the House. You had 36 people voted no. And I can tell you right now, there are not 36 Democrats in the House. So you Republicans or conservatives should find that list and figure out what the hell is going on. What are your guys' thoughts?
Good question. The questions I would have, because I'm not familiar with gerrymandering is a thing that we've dealt with quite extensively the last 2 years. So like that is, if it's a case regarding gerrymandering and the restructuring of districts for political purposes, that's a huge red flag, and that's a huge problem that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
With that said, why did 36 people vote against it? Why? If they're tackling bigger problems, I love it. Thank you for voting that down.
Yep.
If they're voting it to readdress it later because of the big problems and the deficit and all these things that truly need to be addressed, if they're going to waste time on this, but there's an ethical code there too. If you break the law, you should have some sort of ramification. So I'd first be interested in understanding why they voted no, and then the AG's perspective, and if he could give any additional clarity, because from a outside perspective, and people are drawing some pretty hard political lines, this is going to be a talking point in November.
Well, and one thing I'd say is I've seen comments just from people that don't live in Cheyenne. So he's a representative of Cheyenne. So it's kind of like, well, I want to know, people of Cheyenne, what do you think? Like, to me, this is gerrymandering. Like if he gets that proposal through his committee in the House, that they pass the redistrict, it's like, well, you guys just successfully let him gerrymander a district. So, which that's wild to me, but I agree. I think really, and who knows, maybe right at this point, the AG's making a statement or Governor Gordon's going to make a statement, but you make some good points about maybe they're just like, this isn't the time to deal with it.
Which I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
They're not making it political.
Sure.
Like if it's a Democrat doing this in a state and with the things and the talking points and re-elections coming up, the fact that they're not making this a big deal might be better, Well, maybe he's getting punished under the table. Maybe he's not up for re-election. Who knows what those ramifications are? But
and like
36 people vote no on something illegal, especially when it's a blue guy in this state.
Yeah,
that's questionable in my opinion.
Yeah, Brad,
don't know enough about it.
I think I will say, like, if someone has like clear evidence that he did not inform the state. And so, like, if that's true, like, so he's illegal in his seat right now. So, like, he shouldn't, like, now we're in this weird, like, any decision he makes moving forward, like, he shouldn't even be in this position. To me, honestly, falls on the AG. That's the Attorney General's job. Like, you're the one that's supposed to be investigating this kind of stuff, which then in turn falls on the governor. Cause like, you're the one that's like, hey man, this checks and balances here. Like, you're the one that keep these guys in check. So we'll see. it'll be interesting to see.
That will be an interesting.
I will agree. I think there are a lot of bigger issues right now that we need to be tackling. So I do agree with that sentiment. But if the evidence is clear that he moved and he knew he was out of his district, that's illegal. Like just straight up. Because like I moved out of Mark Jennings' district. I can't go vote in that district now. That's illegal. That's voter fraud. So we'll see though. All right, last one. This probably will not. I don't know what's going to happen with this bad boy. But House Bill 106 was proposed. Decriminalization of marijuana in the state of Wyoming. I think I have that bill. Hold on. Decriminalization of Cannabis. Sponsored by Representatives Baker, Barlow, Burt, Olson, Provenza, Romero, Martinez, Roscoe, Sweeney, Yin, and Senators Case and Ruthus. I'm going to guess that those are all Democrats, fellas. Rufus is the Senate Majority Leader. But let's see. Marijuana, all parts of the plant of cannabis, whether growing or not. Oh, they're just defining it there. Okay. Oh, so they would say this includes products that are composed of both marijuana and other ingredients, edible products, ointments.
So essentially, they're going to decriminalize a specific amount, which looks to be under 3 ounces. And so they're basically implementing what Colorado did like 6 years ago. They legalized the medical aspect, they decriminalized it, and then they passed it like 2 years later, right?
Yeah.
And what we looked at the
Yep, no more than 3 ounces.
We looked at the Montana statistics already, and they make $25 million as a state through a month and a half.
Wow. Yep, looks like, yeah, Tyler, you're right. So 3 ounces, and they just define what marijuana is. And yeah, they're just, taking down the offense of it, obviously.
But that wouldn't open up the door for commercial cannabis stores or anything like that. It would be decriminalization, focus on the medical aspect in some aspect, and then that's it.
Yeah, and it looks like they didn't decriminalize, like, if you're growing it, obviously, because that'd be more than 3 ounce. Knowingly or intentionally plants cultivates, harvests, dries, and processes. So
yeah, all of our neighbor states have it. So it's something I think that's pushing the urgency in Wyoming, just because they're losing out on some of that money to our other, if they're not getting it here, they're going to Montana or Colorado or Idaho or South Dakota. I can imagine. So.
Well, and I've always been in the position that, I think decriminalizing is fine, right? Like, why are we putting people that if it's under 3 ounces or something like that, like, we'll still get the big drug dealers, big suppliers, probably traffickers, things like that, and then get all the other, fentanyl, cocaine, whatever it is that they're transporting. But then I think medicinal should be on the table. I think we need to be more open about, can that be a possibility? And then just go about the Colorado route in Montana, where, hey, if Sheridan County wants to make it illegal and we don't sell it here in Sheridan County, fine. Make, at the state level, make that decision and say, hey, counties can make it whatever you want it to be. Just know that looking at Colorado, that's how they did it. You look at the counties that can sell it, grow it, whatever, like, they're making in buku bucks on the tax revenue. And then they set it all aside for K-12. So it's like, I don't know. I think there's plenty of states out there that have done it and are doing it that I think we can look at it and be like, let's take some steps and see what's going on here.
You don't have to go full mushroom mode.
Yeah,
like
we don't.
Oregon.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
we can take it a step at a time.
Freaking crack pipes on the street, to the hobos. Like
Heck
we don't need to do that.
Yeah,
I think that's how it is out there, actually. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're handing them out, man.
Yeah, sure.
Decriminalizing marijuana is not handing it out.
not yet.
You got to watch out. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. I will want to make this clear. I for no means am saying like let's legalize weed. I'm just saying that. Let's have the conversation on this decriminalize bill.
Yeah, sure, it's like what Tyler's saying. It's driven by money, and the states around us are doing it. And absolutely.
Listen,
yeah.
We're fortunate enough not to have to deal with the real problems of the fentanyl. We still deal with that.
Yep.
But there are a lot of, painkillers and stuff. Like, that's no joke. And Wyoming is a blue-collar state. We have ranchers. We have, we have people that go to work every day in environments that require physical labor. And if medical marijuana assisted those type of people instead of going on Oxycontin, well, hell yes, let's do it.
Yep.
But we don't need to go full, Portland, Oregon right away.
Yeah.
We can take proactive steps, test it out, and go that route. But if it helps our population, heck yeah, do it. And if it generates some tax revenue in a state that's losing money because of coal, and we all know those conversations, yeah, go for it. Why not?
Yeah. Or get the conversation with the university, like let's do some studies, agricultural wise, like CBD or something. And I don't know. So anyways, yeah, let's just start the conversation. I don't foresee this getting very far this year with the budget, and they got to figure out what to do with the ARPA funds. But yeah, starts the conversation though. Yeah, boys. Anything else for the good of the order? No. Just reminder, episode with Cyrus Western will be out tomorrow. Who else we got lined up? RJ, Outer Limits.
Really? Got that guy.
Outer Limits.
We got the camera on.
I will say Sheridan Kid is a stunt double on Outer Banks. Weston Heron, who I coached, who's going to be like an actor, producer, something like that.
Sweet.
Nick Gale. So yeah, shout out to Weston. He's killing it.
Heck
Yeah, he's
Jumping off boats and stuff.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah.
Sheridan's got quite a few. Wyoming in general has got a bunch of talented.
Yeah.
Man, we're fortunate that we have all these dudes and dudettes available to do our show.
Just killing it.
Yeah.
Right.
We're an active community.
Some things to say than me. Come on.
We'll hit him up. You did fine. It was the sports. We wanted you for the sports, Brad. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I hope that camera's pointed at you guys for this one, because it's not going to be very engaging. This guy's just sitting here listening. Well said, everyone. Well said.